Guys, another Adonis review today. We will be doing Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, Aftershock, Tourist Edition, Chapter 1. Sure is a mouthful, isn't it? So, great time to get into this and kind of rediscuss it. It's a few years old now. Looking into it, it's a roughly 10 to 20 hour game, depending on, I guess, your free time. I feel like it seems like it'd be a longer game. Who knows? It might just end immediately the next second for me because I feel like I've done a lot and put a lot of hours into it. But yeah, let's discuss it. So, a few good things to know just about the game in general. If you had no idea anything about this game, one, you might be looking at this video because just recently The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 came out, which of course is a continuation of this. I personally did not know that this was a Chapter 1. Maybe everyone knew that. I'm an idiot, who knows. But if you didn't know that, now you know. Chapter 2 should also be a 10 to 20 hour game, depending on how long you loot and shit, so keep that in mind. Also, a good thing to know is that this game, the exact same day as the Chapter 2 came out, this game got ported up and upgraded to a PS5 edition. So you can play this for PS4 or PS5. Now, if you already own this game for the PS4 and want to upgrade it, they do force you to upgrade to the Tourist Edition. I don't know how you get that. If you already have that, apparently it's free, which I don't know if there's just like a deluxe version, and that's what it's called. And if you paid that in the beginning, you know, you have that. But basically, it's a $10 upgrade fee to go from PS4 to PS5, which overall I think is worth it. It does look a lot better. And this game is very dark. So you want to be on the best quality possible if you have a PSVR2, you know, you need games for it, so might be worth it. Now let's go into the general game and the value of it and whatnot. And of course, it's a VR game. I don't know if I said that or if it's a mystery to anybody, but this is for the VR. Now, first off, I would say that this game, honestly, is a very good VR game. I feel like with PS4, a lot of VR games were kind of like a novelty game, something you put on for 30 minutes to an hour, just like, oh, this is cool, look at the future. One day this will be, you know, great. And we've kind of gone from like it being a novelty to it being like a thing that you throw on and you play for hours like you would any typical game. And The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is a great way to kind of show that. One of the most impressive things and one of the most standout things in my opinion of this game is there's a lot of games that kind of throw together VR mechanics like as a second nature. A great example of this would maybe be like Skyrim. Skyrim is a great VR game. I mean, it's amazing that they were able to adapt, 200 hours into VR. Super impressive. But that game came out in the PS3 era, and it was not meant to be VR. So the controls are put together, hastily. They do have cool mechanics, like you pull a bow and arrow and fun stuff like that. So it's not like they didn't try it all, but it's just a last minute thing. I mean, they didn't make it to be a VR game; they meant it to be a PS3 game and Xbox 360 or whatever. So obviously, they didn't like super duper readapt everything to be VR. They just made sure it worked and that everything kind of had a place. But this is probably one of the first games I played, and I've played a lot of the new ones, where they really thought out the controls for VR. Like, this was meant to be VR all the way through. From the placing of it, there's just a lot of in-depthness with it. Like, you have to really force your hand down when stabbing a zombie in the head. If you just try to pull the knife out, it doesn't come. You have to really yank it out of their head like if it was stuck. The way you reload weapons and load in ammo and the flick of the wrist to kind of shut the revolver chamber. Just little nuances like that. It's a real nice addition and really just a good way to work it overall. It's just, you could just really tell that they really thought about it. And it is a good looking game. I've noticed overall that for some reason the Walking Dead games, they've kind of got this like Borderlandish type feel to them. It's like a cartoon look, and obviously like the Telltale games have that, and it's hard to tell 100% if this game's really going for that, or maybe I'm just putting it on it. But I feel like it has that kind of art style attached to it, where it's kind of like Borderland comic book style. Where it's not really noticeable. Who knows? It might just be lower graphics or something like that. But it's like the graphics don't look bad. They look good, but they just look like they kind of have that style to it. But it looks really great when you're in the VR world and whatnot. Weaponry is cool. The way they decided to kind of build what you can upgrade and whatnot is pretty cool. The way you kind of use your backpack and you can fit the place and see what stuff breaks apart. The way you heal yourself and wrap your arm. Like I said, it's just a really well done, thought out VR game. It's a good amount of time. Like I said, with its playtime for people who get motion sickness, might be long, but I don't know, doing like 30 minutes to an hour a day, you can get it done in a few, 2-3 weeks and get it done within a month. So, I think it's worth it, and I think it's a game that should be played at that distance. I feel like we should get into a time where we're not being robbed of it. When it comes to negatives, there's not too many giant negatives I have. I would say just kind of quality of life problems. One big problem is like the save point. I guess the only way you could save is like when you kind of do this like boat travel thing you do, which is basically something you do twice a day. You do it once to get to wherever you need to go, and once when you're leaving after you finish your mission. So basically everything you do during the mission, which is like, it could be 30, 40 minutes, an hour, who knows. If you fuck up and die, you don't immediately lose everything you have, but you only get like one chance to save yourself. Like basically everything you've gathered, all the weapons, supplies, everything, you drop wherever you died. And then you have to, with now that you don't have anything because you dropped it all, you have just whatever you were holding on you before you left, which could be maybe a pistol or, a flimsy knife, which do break on you over time. Weapons and knives break on you over time, which is another negative. So you could stab somebody, have one stab left, and you could break in your hands, and then all you have is that gun left. Who knows? Maybe you have 2 bullets left before that breaks in half. And then you have to go try to find your bag wherever you dropped it, and then hope you don't die on the way. And if you do, you're fucked. So it would be nice if they had a save point, more save points. You could also save when you go to sleep at night. But you only save like the beginning of the day and the end of the day. So you could really fuck yourself, if you die. It could be over. So I think they should allow you just to save whenever. I don't know why not. Doesn't seem like it'd be that big of a deal, but whatever. And maybe just have a bigger consequence if you die. But beyond that, another thing is probably the weapons. Another thing that kind of sucks about the guns is that is that there's not really an indicator of like where you're shooting when you shoot it. And maybe, a normal person would say, well, we'll just make sure your shots line up and stuff, right? But unfortunately, you wish that to be the real world, but in the VR world, it doesn't line up. It's not exact. So you can think you're lined up perfectly, even at a pretty close distance, and then miss, and because the gun just is wrong or whatever. Who knows VR, right? And it makes, having guns, not as OP as you would hope they would be, which maybe is a good thing. Maybe it's what they were going for. But it also really makes it bad because it takes forever to fucking load it. So if you shoot, miss, and now you need to like reload bullet per bullet, like it basically makes it worthless and having to switch. Now you can grow, adapt, and get better, and and better prepare for this because you suck. But I don't know. I just feel like at least give me crosshairs, so I at least know where I'm shooting at, like, so I don't waste bullets. If you're gonna make my reloading take an hour, like, at least give me crosshairs. That's how I feel. Like I said, just quality of life stuff, weapons breaking easily, you not being able to save, slow reloads without being able to see crosshairs. The repeater rifle doesn't have, like, a scope. Things that would just be nicer. It would make the game a little bit more fair overall. But like I said, you can get better, play better. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you can stab people in the head. It's not that awful, and get some kills. So it's not like an impossible thing to do. Beyond that, I'd say the only other quality of life problem is kind of where they place the gun. Obviously, you have like a coaster for your guns and your knife and whatnot. There's been plenty of times where I maybe just reached down and picked something up, but the area of effect for me to grab it is so large that I've accidentally maybe picked up my gun and dropped it, or grabbed my backpack instead of my flashlight, which I have no idea how I do that because they're completely different areas, but somehow it registers I grabbed my backpack. Just a little bit's off, and I've dropped my knife, by just trying to pick something up off the floor and apparently grabbing my knife, and I didn't even notice it, and then I dropped the knife instead of what I thought was just random shit. Just kind of annoying. But like I said, overall, it's a great game. Those are little annoyances that could be smoother and well thought out, which maybe they haven't improved upon in the chapter 2, which we'll do next, but overall, great game. I think they did a fantastic job. It's truly a great VR game to get, especially now since it's for the PSVR2, and there's not a huge lineup yet for PSVR2. I think this is a great thing to add to your library and do if you haven't beaten it yet. Or if you started it and didn't finish it, have for the VR1, pay that $10 and try it for the PSVR2, and I think it'll be worth it. It's a great game. Really gets that fear in you, too, when you're walking through a dark house with just your flashlight and wondering if something's going to sneak out behind you. So, I hope that helps you out if you're thinking if you should buy this game, especially since the second one's coming out, or is out actually. Later.